Hello, welcome to a new tutorial presented by the SHRDB. In this tutorial, we are going to see the vasculature of the lower limb with the lymphatic drainage. So let's visualize it. At first point, we need to add up the number of arteries. So when we visualize the number of arteries, we first visualize that the descending aorta, when it is going to come, the descending or abdominal aorta is going to divide into two main portions, and those two main portions will be this bone here. This bone is going to be called the common iliac bone. This artery is going to be called the common iliac artery, and this other artery is going to be called the other common iliac artery. So let's visualize. So as the common iliac artery descends, we're going to give the external iliac artery, which is going to supply mainly the lower limb. Now this internal iliac artery is mostly going to be involved with the pelvic supply. So now as it descends now and passes, when it passes now this ligament here, there's supposed to be a ligament which is formed here, and that ligament is this particular ligament connecting the anterior superior iliac spine to this area here of the pubic crest. So they suppose as it passes that ligament, then it's going to be called the femoral artery. So now the femoral artery is going to descend, and then it's going to give this part here. So you are going to have the femoral artery here. The femoral artery is going to give at this portion is going to be, when it passes this portion here, is going to be called the popliteal artery. So as it passes this portion here is going to be called the popliteal fossa. So it passes this portion is going to be called the popliteal artery. And the popliteal artery is going to divide into two main portions. You have one portion here, and we have another portion posterior. This one portion is going anteriorly. It's going to be called the anterior tibial artery. So at this point here, so this is the anterior tibial artery. The anterior tibial artery is going to pass anteriorly as such. So you have the anterior tibial artery passing anteriorly as such to give the dorsalis pedis artery, and also the popliteal artery is going to give this other part here, which is the posterior tibial artery. The posterior tibial artery is going to descend posteriorly and pass medially here. So that's why if you want to feel the pulse, you feel it below the medial malleolus. So it's felt below the medial malleolus and posterior to the medial malleolus. So, and to feel the dorsalis pedis artery, you're going to feel it at this level here. So this is the first point to note about the different arteries. So now after having this, we can add up again the arterial supply to visualize a little bit more. Now let's visualize a little bit more. We find that the common iliac artery, now you have this artery here, which is the internal iliac artery, which is we have not yet seen. We cannot see. It's not really important to see it, because internal iliac artery is going to be used to supply this part here, which is the pelvis, for the content of the pelvis. Now we are involved with the lower limb. Now let's continue. This part is going to continue the external iliac artery. Then it's going to pass the particular ligament. Then it's going to be called the femoral artery. As it passes that ligament, which connects the anterior superior iliac spine to the pubic crest, it's going to be called the femoral artery. So this femoral artery is going to have different branches at this point. So at this first point here, you have a branch of the external iliac artery. This branch of external iliac artery here is going to be called the deep circumflex iliac artery. You have deep circumflex iliac artery, mostly involved now with the pelvis. Now this other branch of the external iliac artery is going to be called the inferior epigastric artery. So this inferior epigastric artery also comes from the external iliac artery. So you have another branch of the external iliac artery. And the last branch, this other branch will descend here to the testicle and the testicular artery, but they are not involved with the lower limb. The testicular artery descends directly from the abdominal aorta. So let's come back again. Now as it descends and passes through the ligament, you are going to have this other artery here that is going to form. So you are going to form the superficial epigastric artery. The superficial epigastric artery now is formed from the formed from external iliac, because at this zone here it has not yet. So it's now formed from the femoral artery, because you see that it's not yet really past that particular ligament. So you have here at this point the femoral artery is going to form the first branch is going to be superficial epigastric artery. Posteriorly here you have the inferior epigastric artery, which is formed by the external iliac, and now outward as it passes that the ligament is going to be femoral artery and going to give the superficial epigastric artery as the first branch. The next branch is going to be lateral. This next branch is going to be lateral and it's going to be called the superficial circumflex iliac. So we have the superficial, the first one is superficial iliac, the superficial epigastric. This one is inferior epigastric, and this one is also deep circumflex from the external iliac. Now this one is going to give superficial inferior epigastric, and this one is also going to be superficial iliac. So these are the two. So now coming down to the next circulation, this other blood vessel is superficial external pudendal. Superficial external pudendal is also given by the femoral. So after having the superficial external pudendal, you have again this other one here. This other artery here is going to be called the deep external pudendal. So you have the superficial and deep external pudendal, which are still coming from the first part of the femoral artery. Now this other part, this part is going to be deep femoral artery. So as this first point is going to give deep femoral artery, and deep femoral artery is going to supply to the muscle of the posterior part of the thigh. So let's come down. The femoral artery descend as superficial femoral artery, and as superficial femoral artery is going to supply the medial compartment and also supply the anterior compartment of the thigh. Now going posterior is going to go posteriorly, and it's going to pass here at this position. So at this position is going to pass into a hole is going to be formed by the adductor magnus at this point here. So between the lateral head of the adductor magnus and this other head of the adductor magnus, you are going to have here a hole which is going to be formed, which is called the adductor hiatus. And that adductor hiatus is a point through which this femoral artery is going to pass into and present itself into the popliteal fossa. In the popliteal fossa, it's now going to be called, the femoral artery is now going to be called the popliteal artery, and the popliteal artery is going to release these arteries here. So it's going to form these particular arteries here, small arteries, and these arteries are called the geniculate artery, the genicular arteries. So you have the superior genicular artery and we have the inferior genicular artery. So this other artery which is going to be formed here, so this other artery which is going to be formed here is going to be called, so we have the inferior genicular artery. So here you have the superior genicular artery, you have the middle genicular artery here. So this one here is going to be called the middle genicular artery or the sural artery. You have superior genicular artery, you have the sural artery, you have the inferior genicular artery. Now at this point we also have another division here. So this division is the posterior tibial recurrent artery. You need to know that every time this one is the anterior tibial artery. So this is the anterior tibial artery which is going to be formed here. So this is anterior tibial artery. Now there's a posterior recurrent, the recurrent tibial artery, which is going to help the anterior tibial artery in its function anteriorly. This is a posterior recurrent tibial artery. So now there's also going to be this other branch here, which is going to be called, this is the posterior tibial artery. The posterior tibial artery gives this small branch called the circumflex fibular artery. So now you have this, and this posterior tibial artery now divides. You need to know that the posterior tibial artery divides into two parts. You're going to have the trunk still of the posterior tibial artery, and you have again this other one which is the fibular artery, and the fibular artery is going to pass and supply everything which is lateral, like in the lateral compartment of the leg. You also have the muscle located in the lateral compartment of the leg. The anterior tibial arch is going to supply the muscle in the anterior compartment of the leg, and the posterior tibial arch in the posterior compartment of the leg. So the fibular arch is going to go and pass by at this position. So you can also feel the pulse, though it will be very small for the fibular arch here by the level of the lateral malleolus, so slightly below there. And for the posterior tibial artery, you also feel the pulse by the level below the medial malleolus, going downward as such and presenting itself downward here. Now when they come down, you see that they are going to form some arches. So the posterior tibial arch is going to give this. So this other one, so this is the artery that is going to be given. So this is a medial plantar artery, and this other one is going to be the lateral. So this is the lateral plantar artery. So this one here is the lateral plantar artery. Now if you add up the circulation, you realize that here there are branches here. So when you come here, you see that this is going to be called the deep plantar arc. So you have the deep plantar arc, and you also have the superficial plantar arc. Now, so you have the deep plantar arc, and this other one here is going to be called the medial cuneiform, no, not the medial cuneiform, but this particular artery here is going to be called the superficial branch of this. So on this case, we don't have a superficial and deep plantar arc. I remember on the case of the upper limb showed that we had a superficial and deep palmar arch, but in this case we only have a deep plantar arch, which are going to give the different radicular arches to the digits. So these are the radicular arches, the metatarsal arches. So now after having this, we can turn our body and visualize that another thing that we are forgetting on the circulation. Upon adding again, we visualize that there is going to be also the deep. We see here that the deep femoral artery that we have formed here is going to now form what is going to be called the medial and the lateral circumflex femoral. Here you have the lateral circumflex femoral, and here you have the medial circumflex femoral. In case of the brachial artery, we had the anterior and posterior humeral circumflex. Now you see that this one, the deep femoral, is going to come downward and is going to give supply. So you have the deep femoral here is going to give supply here. So this supply are the perforating arteries, and the perforating arteries are penetrating into the bone. So from here we finish now with the arterial supply of the lower limb. So after having the arterial supply of the lower limb, now we have the venous supply of the lower limb. So now let's visualize the venous supply of the lower limb. So at first point we have this. So you need to know that the venous supply of the lower limb is either superficial or deep. The deep circulation of the venous supply is going to be similar with the arterial supply. So you have the similar arterial supply, but it's going to have the corresponding veins close to it. Now the superficial circulation is going to be slightly different due to the saphenous veins. Now you need to know that there are saphenous veins which are used in superficial circulation. We have the great saphenous vein and we have the lesser saphenous veins. The lesser saphenous vein. This vein here is going to be called, this particular vein which comes medially is a greater saphenous vein here. So the greater saphenous vein take at this portion. So let's increase and visualize. So we have the greater saphenous vein at this portion. At this portion here, we have the medial part. So this vein here is going to be the medial marginal vein. So we have these veins all are entering into the great saphenous vein. Now we have also, if we reduce now, we are going to find the lesser saphenous vein. This lesser saphenous, this is a posterior tibial vein. You have the greater saphenous vein at this side. So we have the greater saphenous vein at this side, and this side here we have the posterior tibial vein. This one is the posterior tibial vein. So the posterior tibial vein will correspond to the deep portion. We initially know that there was the deep tibial arch, deep tibial veins at this portion. So we have to make sure that the posterior tibial veins here correspond to the posterior tibial vein is going to correspond with the posterior tibial artery. So it's not going to be considered in a superficial circulation but in a deep circulation. So now if we increase again the venous supply, we're going to see something which is going to form laterally. So another one which is going to be formed laterally here to the greater saphenous vein. We have this other vein here. This vein is going to be called the lesser saphenous vein. So this particular vein is going to be called the small saphenous vein or the lesser saphenous vein. So you see that on the major side of the foot, you have the greater saphenous vein which take blood supply, but on the lateral side of the foot you have the lesser saphenous vein. All of them take this from this particular arch. There's a particular arch here which is going to be called a dorsal venous arch. Of this dorsal venous arch. So it's going to take in and place it into the greater and the lesser saphenous vein laterally and greater saphenous vein medially. So as you go up the lesser saphenous vein, you see that the lesser saphenous vein is going to give a portion which is going to combine at the level of the lower part of the popliteal fossa. So it's going to give a portion of the lesser saphenous vein is going to give a portion to this one. It's going to give part of its venous drainage to the greater saphenous vein, and it's also going to give part of venous drainage to the popliteal vein. So part of venous drainage is going to enter the popliteal vein via this small vein there. This is the anterior tibial vein. Part of it is going to enter into the popliteal vein, and part of it is going to be transferred to the greater saphenous vein. Now, as it transfers to the greater saphenous vein continues like this posteriorly, and the popliteal continues as the femoral artery. So as the femoral vein, this is the femoral vein now, which continues above here, and this is the greater saphenous vein continue superficially. So this one is deep and this one is superficial. The femoral and the popliteal are now going to bind at the level of the saphenous hiatus. The saphenous hiatus opens somewhere at the level of the femoral triangle. So you're going to have a saphenous hiatus which open. As the saphenous hiatus opens, you see that the femoral the greater saphenous vein is going to bind with the femoral vein to form now the external iliac vein, and the external iliac vein are going to bind with each other with the internal iliac vein to form now the common iliac vein. It's now they're going to form common iliac vein, going back to the heart via the inferior vena cava. So this is the circulation of the lower limb. So now the lymphatics of the lower limb will be shown in this new video. So now we have the lymphatics of the lower limb. We need to know that for lymphatics, they have to know that there are superficial vessels which are using the lymphatics. Now the point to note for lymphatics is about the lymph nodes. These lymph nodes on the lymphatics are called the inferior superficial inguinal lymph node. You need to know that there are two main types of lymph nodes here. You have the superficial inguinal lymph node, and you have the deep inguinal lymph node. So every lymphatic drainage which comes from the deep aspect of the thigh or of the lower limb are entering the deep inguinal lymph node, while everyone which are coming from the superficial aspect are entering into the superficial inguinal lymph node. So these are the superficial inguinal lymph node. This one here are the superolateral superficial inguinal lymph node. This one here are the superomedial superficial inguinal lymph node, and this one here are the deep inguinal lymph node. So we have the superficial and all the deep inguinal lymph node. So the superficial and the inguinal lymph node are all going to give their fibers to the deep inguinal lymph node, and the deep inguinal lymph node is now, so you see how the superficial one are going to give their fiber to deep inguinal lymph node. Deep inguinal lymph node continue and give to this the external iliac inguinal lymph node. So you have the external iliac inguinal lymph node. The external iliac inguinal lymph node are going to give to this lymph node, this particular lymph node here. So they are going to send now to the common iliac inguinal lymph node, just as in the circulation. The common iliac inguinal lymph node are going to send back to this inguinal lymph node here. So this particular lymph node. So we have the lateral caval lymph. So after this, you have the lateral caval lymph. The lateral caval lymph goes above in this direction. So when you enter like this, so the lateral caval lymph are going to go above. So you have this lateral caval lymph. Since they are going above, they are going to hand over now to this particular duct here, which is going to be called the thoracic duct. And the thoracic duct now is going to move all through the body in the abdomen, the thorax and abdomen, to find itself here at the level of the neck, where it's going to drain into the superior vena and into the subclavian vein, the left subclavian vein. On the right side, we need to know that all the lower limbs are going to enter, all the lower lymph, the lymph circulation are going to enter into the thoracic duct. The right lymphatic duct only takes from the right upper limb and also the upper half of the axial skeleton. So you need to know the lymphatic circulation on the upper half is going to be, the lymphatic circulation is characterized to be on this portion from here to here as such, all this portion here and the medial part here. So all this portion, this other half like this, and the upper limb are going to be draining into the right lymphatic duct, and the rest is going to be draining into the thoracic duct. So from here we have seen all the vasculature of the lower limb and the lymphatic of the lower limb. So this can say thanks for your kind attention. Don't forget to like and subscribe for Science Dream Makers. Thank you.